Sonic Superstars, the latest in line of games that people title the real Sonic 4, and, if it succeeds, could keep that title. The game is a joint effort between Sonic Team and original Sonic character and level designer Naoto Oshima's company, Arzest. Now, Arzest is quite well known in the video game space for creating Balan Wonderworld, the game I bought for $5 at the GameStop. So, if Balan is worth $5, let's see how well Sonic Superstars fits on the Sonic 4 scale at $60. Wait, go back, how much? To start us off, where does Sonic Superstars fit in the Chronology section? Well, it's actually hinted to take place directly after Sonic 3, maybe even before Mania. The year before Superstars, Sonic Origins, the collection of the original Sonic games, was released. When you complete all 4 games, you get an ending that features Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy all banding together to do something. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy were NSYNC and we were all Taylor Swift. Like, they were planning something and we had to know. Well, the director of this scene, Tyson Hess, confirmed that it's meant to tie Sonic 3 into Sonic Superstars, implying that it takes place pretty shortly after it. He did also state that this doesn't confirm Superstars takes place directly after, rather just some time after. Considering the game uses the classic character designs, it can easily be any time between 3 and 4, Episode 1. In my opinion, considering the ending tie-in is part of a collection of the original trilogy, I like to believe that it takes place after 3 and before Mania. However, due to the lack of a concrete placement, Superstars is only getting a 4 out of 5 in Chronology. The gameplay is nearly identical to how Sonic Mania controls. Superstars' foundation is heavily based off of the Retro engine, which gives it that trademark Sonic feel. With that, Amy Rose has been added as a new playable character. Her moveset is very similar to the one found in Sonic Origins, where she has a larger hitbox and wields a hammer, but the developers actually remembered to program her double jump in this time. She's probably the best character out of the group, and easily my favorite out of them. Along with Amy being playable, the level design is much more open, giving a mix of Sonic 2's speed and Sonic CD's platforming. There are tons of different routes to explore depending on which character you're playing as and what moves you have in your arsenal. There are tons of bonus tokens, shortcuts, and special stages to discover. Speaking of those special stages, they have this really cool mechanic of grappling onto orbs to gain momentum and reaching the Chaos Emerald or token. They weren't all too hard, except for the 5th one. For whatever reason, Sega chose to have a major spike in that department. I wouldn't say these are as good as something like Mania's, but they were still pretty fun in their own right. The boss fights, though, are the biggest thing that prevents Sonic Superstars from getting a perfect score in gameplay, however. While some are all good fun, some others are unnecessarily long, slow, and monotonous. Some that are pretty fun can simply be cheesed with special abilities anyway, so what's really the point? The bosses are absolutely the weakest part of the game. In the gameplay department overall, Superstars is getting a 4.5. It's so close, but it has too many downsides. I was really expecting Superstars to crush it in the uniqueness category, but it somehow surpassed and also fell under my expectations. The game has wholly new zones unlike Sonic Mania, but the new stages aren't as original as many initially believed. Sure, they are new stages and they have some pretty cool new mechanics, but they're stage concepts that we've already explored. Heck, some of the stages have similar names to previous ones: Lagoon City and Hydrokaiti, Sand Sanctuary and Sky Sanctuary, Press Factory and Press Garden, and so on. Not all parts of the stages are bad though. Some stage designs really piqued my interest. Sand Sanctuary's aesthetics give me heavy vibes of that cut stage from Sonic CD. Golden Capital is a city filled with rings and pinball sections. Pinball Carnival gives a really cool spooky twist to the pre-established idea of pinball and Sonic. And Cyber Station's transformations are really interesting and are accompanied by spectacular music. I'd say that last statement especially goes for a few other stages in the game as well. It may not be related to the uniqueness of the game, but this soundtrack, in my opinion, is the greatest 5 out of 10 album I have ever heard. Man, Drake better step aside. There's a new pinnacle of mid in town. This soundtrack can range from something as Sonic 4 sounding as Fang's boss theme, to something as majestic as Lagoon City Act 2. And you know me, I'm a fan of Sonic 4, so that obviously means that I enjoy the soundtrack of the game as well. I actually did enjoy a few of the songs that Jun Sonoe, the one behind the Sonic 4 tracks, created for this game. While I do think some of them are genuinely offensive, like the early boss theme, I didn't mind songs like Fang's theme and Golden Capital. I should really get that checked out. Sonic Superstars is the first Sonic game to have full-on local co-op. It can range from 2 to 4 players, similar to the new Super Mario Bros. Games. While this sounds and looks great in practice, playing with 3 or more players can be an absolute nightmare depending on the context and who you're with. There were times I was playing with people and none of us knew what was going on, even the ones who knew Sonic like the back of their hand. Playing with 2 people is the sweet spot. That is where the mode shines. I expected this multiplayer to be chaotic, but it still surprised me how many people, including myself, just didn't feel in control. No matter how many players you're with, however, the new Chaos Emerald abilities are a constant highlight. Along with all of the emeralds giving you access to Supersonic, each one individually gives you a special ability that can aid you in exploration, combat, and traversal. They can be used by any character at mostly any time, although the final emerald gives each character their own ability. It's really refreshing seeing the Chaos Emeralds be used for something that's really unique and clever. Along with all of this other stuff, there's an entirely separate campaign after completing the first chunk of the game with the new character, Trip. She even has her own level design and abilities on the line. All of this is great, fantastic even, but I feel like it all adds up to Superstars being something that shouldn't really be considered Sonic 4 in terms of what it offers compared to everything else in the classic series. It feels much more like a subsidiary rather than a continuation, similar to the new Super Mario Bros. Games compared to the original Mario games. Superstars is getting a 3 out of 5 for uniqueness since it doesn't feel like a proper classic game, but its offerings are still amazing in their own right. Is the quality equally as amazing? Well, the game has tons of little issues that add up to feeling like a death by 1,000 paper cuts type of situation. I ran into tons of bugs, like Tails being stuck in his floating state in Sky Temple, Sonic continuously jumping in an invisible sand waterfall, Amy swimming through the air when she shouldn't be, drowning on the result screen when at the surface, and my time on the time trials being set to 0 seconds, thus permanently throning me as the #1 Bridge Island speedrunner in the world. Okay, maybe don't patch that last one. The point is, Superstars has a ton of issues that can be fun to laugh at, but it really shows how unpolished the game is. It's still more polished than Frontiers though. Like I mentioned before, when playing with 3 or more players, the co-op is hectic and almost incomprehensible at times. Countless despawns and character focus switching are definitely culprits. Again, like I mentioned before, the music ranges from Sonic 4 synth tracks to some of the best songs this series has had in decades. Because of that, the soundtrack clashes and doesn't give a proper sense of identity. Like, look, here's one of the stage themes. Sounds like Sonic 4, right? Well, you'd be correct. That was Mad Gear Zone, Act 3 from Sonic 4. You see the problem here? The soundtrack doesn't have its own vibe. It doesn't focus on energetic EDM tracks, melodramatic pianos, butt rock, nothing like that. There are amazing compositions here, but it feels like you're eating a hamburger at a candy store. In general, Superstars' quality is all over the place, and thus is getting a 2.5 in that category. Adding everything up, Sonic Superstars gets a 14 out of 20 on the Sonic 4 scale. It's really fun and enjoyable, but falls short of the high quality standard the original game set. Even without the bugs though, Superstars feels much more like it's starting something else, rather than feeling like a successor to the original trilogy. I still believe it's a really good game, maybe even a great game, but as Sonic the Hedgehog 4? Not really.